So, the trailer for Volume 6 of RWBY has come out. Call me cautiously optimistic. Anyone with eyes knows this cartoon has been a mess since the beginning, and nothing about that is helped by the circumstances surrounding it. Well, that's a whole other can of worms. I want to focus on the decisions and problems coming from the production side of things. To make a long point short, no one on RWBY seems to have any actual fucking clue what they're doing. Let me start from the beginning. First, the whole anime-inspired thing. Rooster Teeth haven't exactly made it a secret that they're not interested in the medium, which I don't really mind they don't. Different strokes for different genitals, I suppose, but that fact makes it all the more apparent that they don't know anything about anime. Take, for example, the Huntsman Academies. Obviously, they didn't have the idea for the relics going in, that came later. What happened was they looked at anime on a surface level and thought, well shit, anime uses school settings a lot, I guess we have to use a school setting then. All without understanding the structural purposes behind the school setting, which, if you think about it, isn't actually exclusive to anime. And you know what? That's fine. At the end of the day, RWBY could never be a better anime than Avatar: The Last Airbender, which for the record is something they should have used for research and inspiration. RWBY is really only using the presentation of anime, but RWBY only has the look of anime, not the feel. Granted, Eastern storytelling as a whole is generally more style than substance, and that was definitely Monty's thing as well. So it makes sense it would turn out that way, but even so, if you're going to use the presentation, you should understand what makes that presentation work. That said, it's not necessarily a bad thing. By just looking like an anime but not actually trying to be one, they can avoid a lot of the tropes and trappings of anime. I don't think anyone would enjoy the fight scenes, for example, if characters were shouting out attacks they spend whole cuts charging up in a battle that lasted 10 minutes but across 5 episodes. That doesn't say them from their own trappings, however. I believe the word misguided accurately sums up all the creative decisions with this show. First of all, Poser? Really? I don't care how much you like Monty and how sad you are that he's dead. A professional animator telling you they want to use Poser is like the drummer in your band telling you they want to play on pots and pans. Despite what a certain dipshit fanboy said in an open letter of his, Monty didn't have this glorious, ambitious artistic vision for the show, and if he did, Rooster Teeth aren't deviating from his ideas because they hate him and want to piss on his grave. Good lord, that's another video, isn't it? They're using Maya because it's practical. Get over it. Look, Monty was a cool guy, but he was also creatively impulsive. I'm sorry to say this, Monty Files, but some of his ideas are just plain stupid, and using Poser is probably the dumbest one. Another thing. Why target kids? This is fucking Rooster Teeth. Their most celebrated show is a comedy so vulgar and just raunchy enough to merit an R rating if it were shown in theaters. So they don't want upskirt shots of perfectly fictional teenage girls. Fine. But why play things so family-friendly in a series whose narrative and setting does not warrant it? It's almost patronizing. They seem to be fixing this, little by little. There's enough swearing and blood to be at a PG rating now, so maybe we'll get to PG-13 soon enough, hopefully. Alright, let's focus on the characters. First, of course, is our protagonist, Ruby Rose. One idea they seem to be set on for her is that she is, above all else, innocent, no matter what. Why? Why? First of all, it comes across as arbitrary, and more importantly, if there was a purpose to it, any other storyteller would make losing or maintaining her innocence throughout the story her entire arc. But I will say this, they are damn good at making her seem innocent, not just because she's endearingly naive, but because I find myself actually wondering what her age is at times. This girl is supposed to be 16, 15 when it started, just 2 years below most of the rest of the main cast, and yet I question whether she even has her time of the month, or if she knows where babies come from. Yeah, you know, giving her a childlike charm is fine, but don't make her actually childlike, Jesus. And, oh yeah, she has a mother too, who's as lively as her relevance to the plot. So there's that. For Yang, they wanted to do this thing where they wanted people to think she was a ditz or a bimbo at first, but then reveal she's a smart and understanding teen mom, and a bit of a detective, or some shit like that. Yeah, that never really happens. She's just adventurous and temperamental with a clever side. Yeah, that's good enough. That's all you needed. So why the whole appearances are deceiving act? There isn't anything about her to suggest she's a party girl other than... what? She's blonde and has nice boobs? So does Glinda. You might as well try to argue that Tai Yang is the cowardly lion despite nothing about him alluding to lions or cowardice. And Weiss is absolutely perfect the way she is. Mwah. Love you, princess. Blake. Good Beerus Blake. I could do a whole other video about her as well. For the most part, she's just boring and annoying, really. And serves as shitbait for no good reason, which is another video. Really, it's not even her, it's everything else around her. The sad thing is her role in the plot is actually the most sensible, on paper at least. The White Fang makes sense as villains, assuming you understand that they are, in fact, supremacists who want to oppress humans and not advocates for equality resorting to extremes. Really, I find it funny that critics will call this show and its fanbase stupid despite themselves constantly misinterpreting what's happening in it, but what can you do? Anyways, faunus discrimination is a world-building element, so the White Fang's existence makes sense. But it's never depicted enough to be justified as a prominent plot point, which it very clearly is trying to be. We're not even really told how faunus are being mistreated. All we ever really see is Cardin being a dick and a sign outside of a bar. They want us to believe faunus discrimination is this huge problem occurring on every corner of Remnant, but no, it's just a few people are assholes that no one likes anyways. Yeah, way to go, Rooster Teeth. You wanted to make a parallel to the civil rights movement, you wound up making a parody of SJWs. Well done. Good job, yeah. Good job on you, Rooster Teeth. Now that does bring me to the villains. Salem, of course, is almost a non-entity. She basically just exists to be the final boss. But hey, at least that means she actually has importance to the story, unlike Summer. She has a standard council of evil as minions, the ambitious woman, the pompous intellectual, the big strong reserved guy, and the crazy fucker. You know, the thing is, when you're doing villains, you need to give your heroes a personal reason to face them, not just to thwart their plans. If your villain is a magnificent prick of a vampire with a massive superiority complex who's trying to raise an army of minions to take over the world or some crap, yeah, your hero needs to stop that, but what if the villain lived with the hero as a stepbrother, and during the years they spent together he went out of his way to fuck up his life, he turned his friends against him, stole his love's interest purity, back when that was a big deal, poisoned his father, and even pulled a John Wick and fucking killed his dog. Yeah, there you go. The hero has perfectly good personal reasons to waste his narcissistic ass. Rooster Teeth seems to kind of be doing this. They have or are setting up personal villains for each girl, but none of them are from Salem's Council of Evils. Here's an idea. Tyrion's a faunus, right? What if he was a White Fang sympathizer? What if he was a White Fang member? What if he was there from the very beginning, with Gira, Khan, and Adam? What if he played a part in Gira stepping down? What if he gave Adam the idea that faunus are superior to humans? And what if Blake found out about all this? Hey, it's a thought. Even Cloud wanted to kill Sephiroth for fucking with his life and killing his manic pixie girlfriend, with a misspelled name that idiots insist on using, just as much because he was going to destroy the world. I bring that up because Final Fantasy is a huge influence on Mani, which, that's another thing. If you're going to take inspiration from RPGs, it should be actual RPGs, not wannabe RPGs, but that's neither here or there. No, actually, that does bring up another point. Dust is practically non-existent. It was supposed to be Monty's version of a tier, but they don't ever really use it, except for maybe once at each finale or so. It's inferred that Dust is how all their technology functions, which is cool, but they hardly ever use it in combat outside a few instances. Point is, when you have an element like this, you need to use it, not just a lot, but in a variety of ways. Same thing with Aura. Aura being literal plot armor for fight scenes is fine. It lets character take hits without having to render battle damage, and ensures that characters can get knocked around but not be in danger of dying until the story wants it. But they shouldn't have stopped there. Imagine if in Naruto, they could concentrate chakra into their feet and hands, and that's how they're running and jumping and punching and kicking each other all over the place. But they don't use it for jutsu. In fact, the only jutsu they use are their unique signature moves, i.e. their semblances. That's what Naruto would be if they treated chakra the way Aura is treated. It just does the one thing. You have a field of mystical power manifesting from your soul all around you. Surely you could do more with it than just a force field or an in-universe health bar. Hell, when we're first exposited about Aura, we see Ren holding back a taijutsu, the snake rim, by its fangs, with its bare hands. You know, Crow, I can see him pulling that off. A brick shithouse like Hazel? Absolutely. But Ren? Ren is a scrawny little fuck. I'm pretty sure John already had more points in his strength stat than he did. So how did he pull that off? If they wanted to retcon Aura to establish that it can be used to enhance strength and mobility, that would explain it, and it'd be perfectly great if they did. I mean, we already see everyone jumping and flipping around like it's nobody's business, why the hell not? Some people complain about Aura being retconned already, and those people are retarded. Aura being manual makes more sense than automatic. You couldn't say, sneak attack someone if Aura automatically protected them. I mean, who's to say you still can't be knocked out with an Aura active? Would it still protect you while you're out cold? Or when you're sleeping? If Aura is manual, then you can seek out an opportunity to get someone with a kill shot when they wouldn't be using it. That's why Wise can get slapped, RWBY knocked out by a bump to the head, and why Ilya could stab Sun. They had their guards down. They weren't using their Aura. Having Aura being manual instead of automatic is a much better idea, both as a power to be utilized and exploited by the characters, and as a storytelling tool. And trust me, storytelling with RWBY can use all the good ideas it can get. Let's face it, the writers aren't doing it well enough on their own. I'm actually not going to focus too much on the "oh, the writing sucks" aspect, as I feel the show's shortcomings are far more multifaceted than that, but I will say this. People keep saying that the show feels different since Volume 2 or 3. There's a reason for that. Go back to Volume 2, arguably the best of the series so far, and what happens? When it starts, they follow up on Volume 1's finale and investigate the link between Torchwick and the White Fang, and that gives them a lead about a hideout in the southwest, which they further follow up on when they go on a mission with Oobleck. Notice that this sequence of events occurs because the party is taking action on their own. Now, Monty wasn't a very good writer. In fact, he's actually shyer than Miles in some respects. He made big reveals out of things that everyone saw coming, he hyped up mysteries that were ultimately underwhelming, and he generally told instead of showed. But he did understand that it is the characters who make the plot happen. The way the show is written now, the plot just happens and the characters simply reacting to it. That's why it feels different. And really, they have plenty of good ideas, they just aren't using them. One idea is that the fairy tales are historical events and people just think they're old fables. We never get told any of them though, so we never get to figure out how they tie into the story. Another is Ozpin. I like him as a character and I love the idea of his reincarnation. I love having a chess master who isn't a villain too. Some ideas are stupid, like naming a bear monster Ursa. I mean, they're not even trying. Others are decent but are poorly implemented, so they either fail to achieve what they're trying to do, or they just mislead people. Seriously, one of the biggest misconceptions of the show is that Blake is wearing her bow to hide from the White Fang. She's not. She's wearing it to blend in with humans. That's why she took it off when she went to Menagerie. But the fact that that happens shows how poorly they're doing it. Look guys, I'm not like other critics of this show. I'm certainly not like Fat Man Logic failing, God forbid. I have no intention of mocking people for the non-crime of liking and enjoying something even though it's bad. I say this stuff because I have hopes and see potential in RWBY. Then I get let down when the show fails to deliver. To use an artistic term, RWBY's greater failure is its composition. Everything that could make it work is there, it's just being used poorly. And 5 years, going on 6 now, it needs to shape up. Its grace period is over. If it doesn't get its shit together in 2, maybe 3 seasons, it will only be good for serving as an example of what not to do when you're telling a story. When your audience and critics are misinterpreting what's happening in the show, that's a bad sign. When your best character scenes are during their downtime instead of pivotal story moments, that's a bad sign. When the songs have a more enriching narrative than your plot and dialogue, that's a bad sign. RWBY is bad. That's okay to admit it. People like RWBY for the characters more than anything. No one's asking for it to be a masterpiece of writing. But at the very least, it should be a strong silver to go with RWBY's gold, if you ask me. But it is uniquely bad. Not quality-wise. I mean, I'd rather watch Volume 5's finale again than, say, SAO, although I imagine that's not saying much. It's the ways in which it's bad. They do shit in RWBY that you just don't do in any story. No one else would let this stuff happen. You don't have a dead hero backstory and then never tie them in with the main plot. You don't have multiple races and establish that one is a victim of prejudice only to never display it. You don't shitbait characters who have no reason story-wise to ever get together. You don't give your main character a special power and never have them think to ask about it or even try to experiment with it. You don't have that power be triggered by the death of an implied friend that they barely interact with. You don't have a final villain who only exists just to be the bad guy. And you certainly don't have your most prominent villain grow a hate boner for your main character for like 2 years only to completely disregard them during a conflict. Why does this stuff happen? People want to point the finger at a bunch of things. Some will say it's Miles because he's a bad writer, and, well, yeah, there's telling instead of showing, but he just implies shit and we just have to go with it. It's just a given that RWBY cared enough about Pyrrha, to be affected by her death, like how it's just like how it's a given that Faunus are mistreated. Some want to say it's the episode structure of the show, and absolutely, their episode times and numbers are nonsense, and it's ineffective for a story they clearly want to run for 10 or so plus years, but aren't thinking ahead on, aside for some loose ideas. Some say it's the production pipeline they put in after Monty's death, and I won't argue that. You should never prioritize speed over quality. And some will say it's Monty's death. And sure, fight scenes have suffered without him, and the only ideas they have to go on are what he already told them or what he's written down. I say it's all of that and more. But each new season is a chance for them to learn from their mistakes, especially if the fans are hard enough on them that they can't ignore it. I was very brief with everything with this ramble because I wanted to address my concerns in a very generalized sense. I do think that there are members of RWBY who genuinely care, and I can see it in the show that they are taking little baby steps to improve. I just want them to make more steps and faster. So, here's hoping Volume 6 and everything after is a step in the right direction. I might turn out to be totally wrong, but hey, I need something to keep me from being a completely jaded, nihilistic asshole nerd with a YouTube channel and too much free time. I won't ask for perfection, because it's too late for that, obviously. But hey, even if the writing is still stupid, but everything else is fixed, I'll settle for that. I just want to watch a cartoon about lesbians, possibly, fighting monsters. I'll take what I can get. But leniency is not the same thing as forgiveness. What's happened already is canon, as is what's going to happen. If they want this show to be a dramatic serial epic instead of a more tongue-in-cheek episodic tune, then they need to live up to their own intentions. It doesn't matter if you're talking about the writing, the structure and pacing, the fight scenes, the ship wars, whatever. Every aspect of this show is troubled. There's too much to go into that one video like this could never address everything, or any one person. So it's up to the fans as a whole to break all this shit down and put it back together. Nothing that's already happened can be fixed, short of a straight-up reboot anyways, but they can still get better. RWBY just needs to be pointed in the right direction.